right, everyone. Right, prep.
We are live.
We are live.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. How are we doing? I mean, we weren't late. We weren't a minute.
No, we were on the later side of 9:30, but we're still 9:30, so it's all good.
Just slightly distracted. I probably should have got my auction set up to have a look at, to be honest with you. I might actually do that now. Who we got? Good morning, Andrew. Of course, Tash is here. Morning. Number one fan. Morning. This thumbnail is looking for a fight. I know the thumbnail was great. I was
waiting for a few people to message me on Instagram yesterday, but nobody bit on it at all.
Really?
Somebody to be like, "Nah, you're wrong," but to be fair, nobody give me any abuse.
I was hoping it would incite beef of some sort. I'm sure people will click on it. Can you filter by Handy will probably know stuff like this.
I couldn't filter by auctions. I genuinely had to manually look through my my sales over the last 2 days to find all of them, and then I had to go in, take all of the values, and then. So, do you want me to start talking, and you can have a little look?
I mean, it's probably intro first.
Yeah, good point. Go on. you go with you.
So, please don't tell me someone's about to start up heavy machinery outside my door. I hear an engine going.
Does everyone like Benji's new background?
Oh yeah, we're in the new space. I'm sorry if it's a bit echoey. I don't really know how to sort it because it's a big space and we're gonna need a lot of soundproofing, and it's hard floors, hard walls. And I don't. Maybe we'll try and put some panels up. I don't know if anyone knows any fixes for like echoey mics in a like what I can put around my microphone to make it sound better. Anyway, so if you're here last week, we were talking clear out strategies and how we were going to go about things and what we're going to do to get rid of stock and what's the best way to, clear house and get things removed from your store and sold fast. So me and Chris went about it, well, pretty much the same way, but I got bullied into trying out a Vinted clearance versus auction clearance strategy. And Chris, I think, just went all auction. So I had 30 on Vinted and 30 on auction. And basically the comparison was to see how much sold within a week. So I started on Friday, my auctions, and they ended on Friday, which is not the best time to do it, I know. But I did it simply for the point of a call in the tech group. If I did do it again, I would do it differently. But it was basically to find out what works better, Vinted clearance or eBay auctions. And I was also interested to see if my items went for decent money, because I thought they weren't horrendous, a lot of them, and I was seeing if we could get a little bit of momentum going on some of them. And yeah, we'll see what happens, to be honest with you. If you want to start and go ahead and talk about your stats.
I could talk about a lot. I've got a lot going on here. So I auctioned off 100 items, but instantly forgot that one of those items was a Rucker Gore-Tex Cordura jacket, right? And I had this jacket previously listed at £200. So I got a little bit scared and I manually searched it on Vinted because it was already listed on Vinted for 200. And I'd been back and forth with a couple of people on it prior at around 140, but they weren't willing to pay that. So I actually went in and manually reduced it on Vinted from £200 to 80 because I knew I wouldn't get that sort of value on the eBay auction. And one of the guys that I'd conversed with previously actually purchased it within 10 minutes of me reducing the price. So then I removed that one off the auction, so that there was 99. And then what happened then was over that week period, I think I've got it all written down here. So from the 99, 6 sold via offer. So 6 people had offered me somewhere in the region of £10 for those items. Now they could have gone up, they could have gone down, but they also could have sold for £6.99. So I was happy to accept it.
So I got offered. When I was doing my auction, I had a £10 offer on something. Mine were all started at £5.99 plus post, and yours were free post.
Mine was £6.99 free postage. Yeah.
So I got offered £10 for one of them, and we've talked about this before, but I used to put my price that I paid for things in the description, and I had it at 12. I paid £12 for whatever this item was, and I declined the offer. And it's interesting to look now. Actually, I haven't looked now to see what it's gone for, but I refused to take the offer because I thought it would sell for more. But we'll see if I was right or wrong to do that. I just couldn't do it, and I stopped doing that because I knew it always used to influence what I priced things at and how much I was willing to take for them. So I stopped putting that in. But yeah, okay, you took 6 on offer. That's good. I only had 1 offer come through on mine.
So I sold 6 via offer, right? So from 100 initially, but then turned to 99 after the rucker, right? So after 99 of my listings were auctioned, 42 of them sold, which is not too bad, I don't think. 42 is okay. There is 4 currently pending and awaiting payment.
That is surprising to me because when I checked in with you like a day after you started them or 2 days after you started them, you had like 25-30% of everything kind of already.
I do think that obviously I didn't want stuff to go super cheap, but there was also some really good stuff in there. So I put it on my Instagram story saying that there was a 100-item auction going live, etc., grab yourself a bargain. So I think what happened is when I put the first post out, a lot of people went and bid or watched those items. In fact, George Ross won a 2-item auction. So he got 2 items. Actually, Andrew bought 3 items from me, I believe.
Andrew, like Monumental Andrew.
Mental, yeah. So Andrew
got too much stock as is. So I don't know why he's out here bidding on auctions. It's
Andrew, I'm gonna go into some good detail in a minute for you, right? So he's got too much stock anyway, yes, but he bought 3 items off me, right? And Orlando's Vintage managed to pick up those leather suede Ralph Lauren trousers with brand new tags, and he only got them for a merely price of £25. Which I think is very good. I think I initially priced them really high at like 200, and I know I paid 15. So I made a little bit of money, but not anywhere near the warrant of paying £15. So we currently have 4 awaiting payments. One guy messaged me and said that he was in Egypt and he might not be able to pay in time for the 4 days, and he'd be happy for me to cancel, which is interesting. So so if you want me to break down the numbers, I can deep it if you want me to jump in and have a little look for you.
I guess
you can go in first.
Actually, no, because I'm going to compare the two. No, you go. You
want me to go? Right, cool. So obviously 42 out of the 99 sold, which means that 7.
Out of interest, sorry. What were you expecting to sell?
I was expecting to sell at least 60% just because I know the items are good. And I didn't think everything was going to sell. And even at $6.99 free post, like I did think maybe that there was some stuff in there that just isn't good as well. But obviously I just accounted for the fact that I believe the stock is good.
Did you go through and so I did this at one point. I went through and I looked at each item and I was like, I think this will sell. I think this won't sell. I think this will sell. I think this won't sell. And kind of assessed whether it was.
Only did it with the rocker jacket, and that was just because I looked at my auctions and went, I'm gonna go and quickly.
Of the auction, you thought I went through and looked what I thought would sell at auction.
Oh no, yeah, I didn't do that. Because I said to Tasha, I was like, if I'm gonna do this and not cancel anything and not mess around, I need to not know what is there, and it will all just play out at the end because. I thought I would be a little bit like, oh no, that's too cheap, and then I would get her to bid on it on a second account or something. You know what I mean? And I thought maybe there would just be a case of me just, you know what I mean?
Just buy all your own stuff back.
Do some chill bidding or whatever it is. I thought, nah, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let it all play out. I'm not going to adjust anything. I'm not going to change anything other than the rocker jacket, which was my initial one.
So then, when you're saying the 60%, then surely you're just guessing. Because you don't know it.
That was just purely based on the fact that I think I've got good stock. Even if this was stock, it was still. I still felt there was some good stuff in there. There was a Alpha Industries jacket in there, the Ralph Lauren suede leather jacket trousers. There was a really nice Aviator Gant jacket. Just loads of good stuff. There is some good stuff in there, worth more than $6.99. So I thought this might, and also I thought So this is one of my tactics, actually, which I can disclose now, which was I posted on Instagram and shared the link to my store so that people would go and look at it, right? So it would increase my views on the pages then there was a lot of interactions with people bidding, watching, etc., etc. And my plan was to just bring more people to the store in general. Now, a lot of the people that obviously follow us on Instagram are going to be resellers, but resellers still buy stuff for themselves as well. So my initial thing was maybe we could get maybe a couple of sales there, and even if they don't buy something, maybe just pushing the traffic means that eBay then pushes my store a little bit more, and potentially that pushes up traffic in general. It could be a bad play because, right, so I heard ages ago that if people come in and look and don't do anything, that's a bad thing, right? But I just thought I'd try something, and it's not something I've tried in a very long time. So
I thought it was a good idea as well, to be fair, to get people, well, especially if there's like good stuff. I'm sure eBay sellers and stuff, if they think they can make money on it, would buy it. But I have also heard this, and I don't know if it's true, because you see it on like conversion rate and click-through rate on like those metrics on your page and stuff. And I think the better or worse that is, the more eBay consider you a favorable store, because if you've got a good click-through rate and people buying your items and you're getting the traffic they're sending you is converting, then I can imagine they'd want to send you more traffic.
I think conversion is the most important percentage, and mine is pretty woeful in general, to be honest with you, at the moment.
I mean, it's never going to be super high. Like actually, does anyone know, like off the top of their head, do people know their conversion rates?
I know.
I'd love to see people to throw in their conversion rates quickly and see. I'm interested what Hanley's is actually, out of all people, because a lot of us sell clothes and like other stuff.
I think Hanley's would be relatively low. It would probably be around the 0.8 to 1%, just based on the store size, I would imagine.
Yeah, but you also got to think of people that are looking for
conversion, though. Conversion. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, looking and buying straight off the bat, maybe.
Andrew's at 2.5 AC Global. Of course, AC Global knows his stats of like. I want to check mine actually. Okay, anyway, yeah. Sorry,
my conversion is 1.1 at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to check mine whilst you carry on.
So let's get back into it. So 42 sales, and the the gross sale on that is £473.09. Oh, Hanley's is much higher, by the way, than I thought it was going to be, 1.9. I suppose make it based on the fact that people are searching items they want, they're more likely to buy right straight off the bat. So that makes more sense.
Items they need. Items they need is always a thing.
So 42 sales, £473.09. However, we will discount fees and postage, and that takes us down from £473.09 to £289.23. After fees and postage, because obviously I do free postage, which gives us an average of £6.88 sale price for a £6.99 auction. Now, obviously, I offer free postage, so that's why it's probably lower. But I actually didn't get many big ticket sales. I got a couple, £125, £125 one, £125 something else, and then I've got a couple of multi-quantity orders, which saved me a little bit on postage. So there was like a couple of orders that were around the £20 mark, but they did order a couple, so that saved a little bit on the postage. And just a very quick one, I went a little bit deeper on this, just to sort of break it down a little bit more. My highest traffic day was Saturday in terms of views and interactions, was Saturday, which was the day that it was ending, right? So that makes a lot of sense. But on the 7 days of the auction from Saturday to Saturday, my average views were up by 8.2%. Now, there's a couple of factors to that. The auction ran from Saturday to Saturday, and on top of that, I was doing not daily, but every bi-daily coupons of 10%. So I was doing Monday to Wednesday 10%, then Wednesday to Friday 10%, and then Saturday and Sunday 10%. So that could have increased the traffic as well, but mine in general was up by about 8.2%, with it peaking on Saturday. So I thought that was quite interesting. And then I've got a couple of views and a couple of opinions, but I will wait based on a little information from yourself on how yours did.
Okay, I'm currently trying to do math right now. Okay. You come very, very prepared, and I'm currently putting my.
I had an hour.
I'm currently opening a Google sheet. I'm opening a Google sheet to try and put the numbers together.
So 1.9 1.9 is very good. 2% is very good, right? That's some crazy percentages.
So mine sucks compared to everyone's. I'm bottom of the class. I'm 0.6. So I compared to, you said yours is 0.8. No, 1.1 didn't you?
1.1.
So I am wasting traffic out my ears, which is really interesting. And I don't think my store performs badly, which is very strange.
What I will say with mine is that mine has risen by 0.1% because mine usually, as an average, is about 1%. But mine's been driven up potentially by these auctions to 0.1%. So if there was an increase, it's probably based on the fact that I've sold like 50 or 60 odd items over the last couple of days.
I did mine over the 90 days just to double check, and it's the exact same. It says it's down it's down 16%. And I don't know what that would be if it's down 16%. It would be,
that's quite high.
No, it's not, because it's 16% of whatever it was.
Yeah. So it could be like 1
divided by 0.84. 0.6 divided by 0.4. It'd be 0.7 basically.
Okay.
Okay. I have numbers.
Yes, let's go. Numbers.
Is that correct? Okay. So my total, I sold, I think 20 items in total in the end.
Is this combined?
No, this is just auction.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I ended up selling about 60% of. I think it was 60%. I'm just going to double check right now, looking at it. I'll share my screen as well, actually, while I'm here.
Let's go.
We'll move this because we can have a look at my earnings as well. Obviously, I've done this. Share screen, entire screen. This one. Ooh. All right. So this is what we got here. The only one that ran up was this Alexander McQueen one. And that got to £31, which is double what I'm paid for it, which I'm happy about. But I had this listed a lot higher for a lot longer. And that I'm happy with that all day. But it's just interesting. So that is the only one. And I actually thought there'd be a different one that ran higher. But apart from that, most things sold for $4.99 plus the postage. And the good thing about mine is I don't need to discount the postage because obviously mine's all included. So actually I made an extra £1 probably on all this postage as well before fees. We had one person buy a multi-lot. I don't know if that's a reseller. I assume it is. The Wild Rose Co. I'm not gonna stalk. They're still alive.
It's a toast. It's a pretty good deal.
So yeah, I got $9.50 for this one, and $10.50 for this toast. $10.50 for this toast, £10 for a Marge dress. So a few of them, again, but considering I paid £23 for all this toast, it's a horrible day to be alive. I think, and that was kind of it. Oh no, £12.50 for this. So this is the thing I got the £10 offer on.
Okay, so it did go up a little bit.
Because in my head, I was like, if someone's willing to offer £10 now, that means that people are willing to bid £10. Is how it works.
Just as an off one, I'm super surprised that didn't sell just normally. I don't know what you've had it priced at, but it's not one of your smaller sized items. Like it is a 12. That's a good size. Isabel Marant has always done really well for me. So I
found Isabel Marant to be really bad.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've had 3 or 4 pieces and all of it sold on Vinted. So I guess maybe that's why maybe it's done a bit better for me just based on that.
So I lost money on most of this. I think this is where it stops. I think the rest of the year, these are all the things that sold, and I think I was outbid on the Isabel Marant. Did anyone pick up anything from me? Didn't seem like it when I checked through. But yeah, some things got ran up. A lot of stuff went for £5. Nothing. I'm surprised this didn't go higher. To be honest with you, I thought this would kind of run up
just based on brand alone, I expected that to go higher, but I know it's from my very limited knowledge on it, because I've never found it because I don't live in that area where it'd be found much, but from my limited knowledge, it's a very manly brand, usually like tailored pieces and stuff like that. So at least from my understanding, so a silk dress is probably not like what it's there for, right? Like known for.
Yeah, I don't know how well it does in women's comparatively.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like from me, like just my limited knowledge on it is it's mainly men's, mainly tailored stuff. So I'd imagine that was probably the reason for it. Like it's not Bruno like Toasty Toast. It's not like
yeah.
the main.
So and then if I'm doing the math here, I did £215 in sales. It looks like, including postage. So I'm gonna. How are we gonna do this? I'm just gonna average it out from there, to be honest with you, just to make it make sense a little bit. 215 divided by, I think 20. I want to say. No, 19. Is £11 30p, and then minus £3.99 off of that is probably the way to go. So £7.32 was my average sale, which honestly not too bad considering everything started at £5.
Yeah,
I'll take that, to be honest with you. But the interesting thing here was, so my point was to compare. I had a pretty good high sell-through rate. Like I'd take 60% of my stuff clearing in 1 week when I want it gone at low rates. Now, I went on Vinted and I didn't do the same thing. So this is just for some context here. On Vinted, I put stuff on, but it wasn't at clearance price. So obviously I started everything at $5.99 here compared to Vinted. I went on, I threw stuff on, I didn't change anything. I just put it at whatever price it was. I cross-listed it. I realized at first that everything I'd put on looked like I was a scammer. And I can't remember if I said this last week, and I went through and changed the price of everything so it looked cleaner. And then I was like, stuff's not selling. Like I sold, I think, 5 things within the first half of the week. And then I was like, okay, we need a better strategy here. And then I went through and I put everything individually at what I think would be a semi-decent clearance price. Some like were clearance, and then some were like a higher level of clearance because I thought that's what someone would pay for it. And then I bumped everything. And this was the last few, like 2 days, literally. And I'd say firstly, bumping made a massive difference. Like they were all dead in the water and not getting any likes or favorites or anything like that, even though they were at the start. And I bumped everything, and everything started getting likes and favorites again, or a lot of it. So from my one-off experience using Vinted, although bumping like means you definitely have to pay, I'd say it definitely does guarantee some eyes on the traffic for the most part if you've got an item. And then after that, a few more things sold. So I ended up selling, I think, 9 on Vinted, which is not fantastic. Actually, it might have been 11. Hold on. I'll double check.
I'd imagine based on the 9, obviously you're not having to take into account fees, you're not having to take into account post. I would imagine that your ASP would be higher on Vinted based on that factor.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah. I sold.
It's less as well, so it makes sense.
I sold 12 on Vinted, and I'll show you what I sold on there just for the sake of it. And I actually think they were worse items, interestingly. Wait, which screen was she? Do you see?
Yep, just come up now.
So, yeah, these 4. I think, yeah, these lots sold before I sorted stuff out, and then all these are sold after, basically.
Was there something wrong with the Oscar cardigan?
No, it's just really. It was just really ugly.
Yeah, that's a crazy.
But I don't. If we're talking about it, I don't think this would have sold on eBay. I don't think this would have sold on eBay. I don't think this would have sold on eBay. I don't think one of these would have sold on eBay. This one, this might have sold on eBay. This probably would have sold on eBay. A lot of this wouldn't have gone on eBay. Like that wouldn't have sold on eBay, which is quite interesting. And so in comparison, right, I got 12 to 19 is the conclusion. And I'd say with that, if I would have done it right from the start, I think Vinted would have been better. But in terms of my results, obviously, I sold more on eBay. Like clearance wise, I sold it fast. Like I guaranteed it sold faster. Like I didn't guarantee it because a lot of stuff didn't sell. And now it doesn't. Now I'll have to do another set of auctions for it to sell instead of it still being listed. So I don't know. But in my head, I kind of ran through it, right? And I was like, if I wanted to do a clearance strategy and incorporate one of these things, how would I do it? And in my head, I think I came to the conclusion that if it got to, I don't know, what time period actually do you want to clear out? Actually, what's everyone's clear out time period? When do you start clearing stuff out? Or when you start reducing stuff and then when you start hard clearing?
I don't have a strategy on it. I actually just do it based on, again, my brain's completely like proper weird one, but essentially I don't have any clearance strategy. I don't have any sort of knowledge of anything in terms of like do it by 3 months, do it in 6 months, any of that. I just every now and then I'll look at my store and I'll go, I've had this for a bloody long time. And because I know, like in my brain, the irony is in my brain, I look at an item and in my head, I already can vision me paying for the item, so I know what shop it is, what town it was in, and how much I paid for it just based off my knowledge of like the item. So a lot of the time, I'll just go, oh my god, I've had this one for however long, and that was how I had to think before, because I didn't have. So I used to, when I did my SKU system, I used to have my boxes, right, and then there was no SKU on anything. So I would just find the item based on what I'd written on a clear bag.
You just had to remember.
So in my head, my brain has already gone, that's what it is. And now I've got a numbered SKU inside of the boxes. Now I have a visual representation. So anything below it, like 1,000 items, I know is X amount time, like old, etc., etc. So I think I'm going to start doing a bit more of a clearance on certain items, but I also, I'm not running out of space. So one of the reasons why, or I was, and I wasn't, if you know what I mean. So I was running out of space initially, and then I moved to a bigger place, right? And now I could fit more in. And until I started to run out of space there, I didn't think twice about shipping stuff out and trying to get rid of it. But then I started to run out of space, and then that was when my mind went, oh, actually, I need to do a bit of a clearance and maybe get rid of some of the older stock. So for me, I think my actual like strategy is wait for me to run out of what I feel like is space, and then just start moving stuff out. And that's probably the wrong way to do it, because it's a more aggressive from the start. It's more aggressive, where I should go 3 months to 6 months, drop it down by X amount, and then clear.
So Andy here has done this. So he said he's played around 99p auctions. Many still didn't sell after 7 days and waiting. I'll put this up. Waiting worse than people that didn't pay. I've just started staggered coupon discounts, which is what who brought it up last week? Jay? Did Jay bring it up last week about the coupon discount? I think
somebody said 80% as well on some of them.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said Brett works all the way up to 80% or something like that. And this is what Andy does by looking at it. 2 months, 10%, 3 to 4 months, 20%, 4 to 5 months, 30%, 6 to 7 months, 40%, 8 to 9 months, 50%, over 9 months, 60%. This seems to be working better than any clearing older stock and still getting more than auction. So
the thing about that as well is this guy's part-time, and he's way more organized than I'll ever be. Like, there's just no way in my brain I'm ever remembering to do any of that. Like, period. He must be so organized. It's crazy. Because
I also think though that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, is because he has, because we're busy, especially you work like super long hours doing stuff all the time, and then when you get back, you're kind of done for the day. He, I guess, comes onto eBay and like there's less for him to manage, but also he has to manage a full-time job. So I don't,
I was part-time and working and doing this, or full-time and doing this on part-time. I think my time management was infinitely better, because the time I had to spend on this was nowhere near as much as obviously the full-time. So I think my time management was actually slightly better as well. So maybe it's just based on time management and being able to get it done.
Of course it's based on time management. And I suck at time management, as we well know. And I'd like to think you're a little better, but even still, I think we're either at the height of organizational skills out here.
I'm the master of making a 2-hour job last 12 hours, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think so. What I would do now is I think I would have an aggressive coupon strategy, and I think I'll be more aggressive because I was doing reduced price strategy, but every time I reduce the price by a percentage, if I do the same percentage again, it's a percentage of the lower price and the lower price. So the increment that it keeps getting reduced by gets smaller. So I like the coupon strategy over anything else. And I'll do that probably till maybe the 9-month mark, to be honest with you. And then that's clearance. Like, that's time to get it gone. How are we going to get it gone? And in my head now, I think putting something on eBay at a clearance price, something on Vinted at a clearance price is more effective than an auction. But I have to put it on at whatever clearance price it's going to be at. And I have to, and because one, I can get rid of worse items. Like, it seems like I can get rid of the bad stuff, and I'll be able to get rid of the good stuff at the same time. The only thing that would take is time of going through each individual item and choosing the price it would clear at, right? Like, because obviously I could put them all at £5 and get them gone. But I think I can extract a bit more money. It's deciding whatever I interpret that clearance price to be. And a lot of the stuff that I had left over is because I overpriced it, like, massively. And if I would have probably reduced it a bit more aggressively and put it in a better bracket, it probably would have sold on eBay by now. And people are saying stuff, Xander's saying stuff sells eventually. I don't think stuff does sell eventually. I think if you've got stuff that's overpriced and or a bad item, it might never sell.
Everything's got 100% sell-through price at a certain price, right?
I don't even think that's true.
Tech says, like, if you price something at a penny, then it's got 100% sell-through because it's going to sell, right? Especially if you're offering free postage. So everything's got 100% sell-through at some point. It's whether you're going to make money on it or not. Like, that's the grand scheme of things. You've just
Do
got
you
to
think if you had a load of, like, really bad Shein or Primark or something like that, do you think you could sell it all for like £1 each?
Maybe not £1, but stuff goes to Africa at, like, what was it, like 20p a kilo, something like that.
Yeah.
So there is a price for, like, I could, if I desperately wanted to clear, you could send stuff to Africa for 20p a kilo, like, and if a kilo equates to 7 or 8 items or 2 or 3 items, whatever it is, you're making. You're not making money, but you are selling it. And it will fly out. It's just based on the fact that we know how much we're paying for these items, so it's a struggle to clear them out. Like you just said then, like, if you're on Vinted and you're like, all right, cool, I'm putting these on $5.99 auctions or whatever. If you go onto Vinted and put it on for $5.99 and it sells instantly, you're going to be like, oh, I could have got 10 for that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's where it gets. You have to disassociate from your items completely, which is what I tried to do. Obviously the Rucker one took me, and I was like, oh crap, I got to deal with this one because I knew it would sell quickly. So there is an element as well, by the way, like, from my perspective, because I list every single item on eBay and Vinted. There is an element of me just looking at these items on eBay and then just manually searching them on Vinted, and then just going and dropping the price by 50%, because if there is some watches or there is some favorites on it, they're all going to get notifications, and it's all going to pop up like it did with a Rucker, and it sold pretty quickly. Now, and that might not be the case for everything, but I definitely think there's a good shout that if you've got something for 25-30 quid on eBay and you're like, oh, I should do a clearance on this, and you just go on to Vinted and drop it to 15 quid from 30, I think you'll get some. And even if someone comes in and says, I'll give you a tenner, you haven't got to pay fees.
Actually, do you think if I did the same price as I did on Vinted on eBay, do you think stuff would have sold?
Potentially, but I mean, you'd imagine so, right? Because there's no, so the buyer takes the fee and the buyer pays the postage, right? So that adds on to the price. So something that's £10 is usually £14, right? So theoretically, if you priced it at £10 with postage and they didn't get the fees, theoretically someone should, like, buy it at that price, but it's not. It's also not a guarantee, is it?
Yeah, I get you. I think
I had a quick question for you. Sorry, before you go on to the next bit. So this experiment, right, has obviously shown you that there are some things that will sell on Vinted. Now, obviously, you drop the prices, etc., right? Like that, there is that. You know what's coming. Is there an element to you that just from future? Now, you don't have to go back and do it, but, like, is there an element that you think right now, like, there are just some items that are going to sell better on Vinted. So you don't, like I do, I only source for eBay. So like I'm going off the sell through on the prices on eBay. But is there an element to you now that thinks I could just dump this on Vinted, and there is a potential that this sells within 3 or 4 days? And I'm example, like I had stuff 2 days ago that sold after having it on Vinted for like 3 months. Like there, and I spotlight and stuff like that, so it does push a lot of the stuff up to the top. Is there an element of you now that thinks to yourself, maybe I should just cross list everything and see how it goes? Like, because these random bits are selling, and I will say from experience that smaller sizes, we both know, are few and far between on eBay. Like you don't sell as many smaller sizes like the 6s and the 8s.
Yeah.
Vinted, I'm noticing that those things, and you've just seen right from your little clearance, although you've priced them like a lot lower, you've still sold them, right?
So I've been thinking about this for ages, to be fair, and I feel like I can do this probably every week, getting into Vinted versus eBay, blah 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 blah. I get a little bit boring after a while, but I would say, and I've been thinking about this, especially coming into summer with dresses and stuff like that. I had a terrible year last year selling dresses or trying to get anything, and I was worse, don't get me wrong, like my stylistic choices were definitely worse for dresses and stuff like that, but this I would 100%. So the problem is my store doesn't do bad, right? Like I just don't know what would happen if I did start doing it. I don't know how much that would improve my sales.
What it would do is it would increase your profit.
Yes, true.
So that's something to think about. And this is the thing, like I was talking to Tasha about it. I was actually speaking about you specifically in this test, because I was saying like 30 on auction, 30 on Vinted, etc. And I was talking to Tasha about it, and she just basically said, I don't know why people are comparing eBay and Vinted. Why are they not just doing both and it just does what it does? There shouldn't, there doesn't necessarily be that in the group. There's a lot of, Vinted's better, eBay's better. Like, why can't we just do both at the same time, not worry about what's doing better, what sells on each, and then the only person who's winning when you're selling on both platforms is you, because stuff will sell on Vinted, stuff will sell on eBay. Nobody's winning. eBay's not winning, Vinted's not winning.
Okay, it's the discussion generally though. Is it like, pick one, or is it what's better stuff? Like what's better at what?
I think that's the thing. It's not necessarily. We all know eBay in the grand scheme of things is the better platform.
You think?
As a whole, just as a whole, it's the most established. It's the one that will get garner, which probably I haven't seen the specifics, but there's probably still garnering the most amount of sales. But yeah, Kaylee, you're a different example, so you don't have to say that. But yeah, I don't see the need to. The conversation is probably more based on, this one will do better for this items, right? Like, for instance, Katie's just put there that I told her just to do Vinted, but she sells predominantly women's clothing. I know that she's branching very slightly out into a couple of men's bits, which I've seen, good bits, whatever. But women's is going to be much better on Vinted, and there is also an element to break. What isn't broke, you don't have to fix, right? Like you're saying, your store does well. Now, you don't know whether it would do better. What Kaylee has is a sample size of doing both at the same time and seeing a decline in one of the platforms, right? Obviously, there were outside issues as well, right?
Yeah.
In general, the numbers were skewed to one side. Crystal's a great example. Crystal's are pretty much anywhere between 45 and 55% either way, like in sales. It could be eBay, it could be Vinted. So there is no reason why in that scenario that you have to pick. Like, she hasn't got to pick in that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but whereas Kaylee's was so skewed in the Vinted section, it makes sense to only focus on Vinted. And obviously with the issues with the eBay store that she had, it made sense to commit to one on a deeper scale.
Yeah, obviously she was a bit of a sticky position, but I agree. Like, if you sell on both platforms, who cares what sells where? Just as long as it's selling and it's making sense. The only thing that I'm worried about is it won't make sense. Like, it won't. I'll start doing it and it will cause a decline on my side currently, like my eBay side, and then it will either balance out to be the same, but which is fine, but it's more steps in managing it, or it will do better, right? Like, because right now you look at me like that, but like going in, cross listing, making sure stuff is delisted and all this sort of thing is just extra steps in managing things. And if you really want to do Vinted properly as well, then you've got to get into all the re-uploading and make, like, if you want it to perform well, then you can get into so much depth on Vinted in terms of active management of things, like in terms of sending offers, all of this stuff. And yeah, you can just use it as a platform to like lazily throw stuff on, because I think that would work also. And I think it's quite often.
I had 63 notifications from people favoriting my items the other day, and I ignored all 63. And I should go through and send off the offers, right? And I probably would make more sales if I did. But I literally just use it as a place to chuck stuff on. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't see if you want to go all in on both, or you want to go all in one. I agree. Like, do whatever you got to do. But it doesn't. You don't need to focus on Vinted. Like, you would definitely make more sales. I genuinely think you would make more sales just across the board.
Yeah, so what I've considered doing is hand picking it and like going through and like the stuff that I've uploaded.
That's more effort though.
I know, but I also it simultaneously isn't because it's like the 10 thing. I'd be uploading the 10 things anyway, and then I just click like 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if it's you lagging or we're both lagging.
As far as I'm aware, it's you, but that could be both.
Okay, are we both lagging on the screen, or is it just one of us, or are we lagging at all to you? It doesn't matter anyway. I shouldn't at least put sway bit, yeah. So I think I will. Like I'm the more I've sat here and thought about it, the more I'm interested in doing it, because just from an interest perspective, right? Like I'm just super interested in how it will function, and I've had people say don't do it because your store's performing well, but again, if it goes split, if it goes 50% Vinted, 50% eBay, and like my eBay sales drop and my Vinted sales go up, like you said, I'm making more money.
Exactly. Even if it goes to 7 sales eBay instead of your normal 10, but 3 sales on Vinted every day, you make more money. Like it realistically, like in the grand scheme of things, I've said this to when I said to Kaylee, don't bother with Vinted. Like if Vinted performed to me the same way that eBay did, I would focus more on Vinted. I would just do Vinted. I wouldn't do eBay.
But then would you? Okay, wait. See, we're getting into the debate. Tash talking about like what's better type thing. But I think it's a valid question, because if you can do the same on Vinted as you can do on eBay, then you're just making more money over there. Like yeah. I get
the only real difference is that you're not paying fees and you don't have to faff with postage. Like
okay, if you actively put effort into Vinted and like did send out offers to everyone and relisted your items and recropped and did all this jazz or whatever, do you think that it would perform as well as eBay?
There is an argument to suggest that it would, yes. Based on my performance on Vinted over the last like 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even 6 to 8 weeks actually, because January was very good as well. I would argue that, yeah, I genuinely think it would. I'm just sort of going over some of the sales in my head, and I am accepting less. So a lot of people say there is an element to Vinted where you price stuff a little bit cheaper. And obviously, so if I've got something for 40 on eBay and I price it at 40 on Vinted, if somebody offers me 30, that's the equivalent of me selling it for 40 on eBay, essentially, right? And then obviously I get I offer free postage, so that would take a little bit off, right? So theoretically, you don't make much more money, right, in that scenario. But I still have quite a lot of items that just randomly sell out of nowhere for full price. And I've forgotten about them completely, whether that's on eBay or Vinted.
I mean, yeah, like it would have sold even faster if you didn't forget about them. So
I mean, so there is an element too. I do think if I put as much effort into Vinted as I did eBay, it would be a much more. I think Crystal's a perfect example, right? Like she puts as much, or if not, maybe a little bit more effort into Vinted than she does eBay. I don't know, but like obviously there is more effort in terms of like the offers and doing all these sorts of things. So and that shows that they're both sitting, like she said, there's a £3 difference. I don't know what the time sample size of that is, but at the moment there's £3 difference between the two. So it shows that it can perform more. Now, what I will say is Crystal's obviously heavily women's clothing, or predominantly, or mainly, or only women's clothing. So that obviously takes into account that as well.
It would be interesting to do the opposite of what I'm talking about, which is list everything on Vinted, then handpick stuff that will sell better on eBay. Which is, for example, you're talking about women's clothing. I think a lot of men's clothing sells on there for sure. I think I think online buyers are generally everywhere. Like if there's male buyers on eBay, there's probably male buyers on Vinted. Realistically, that they may look slightly different and they might congregate slightly differently in different platforms, but a lot of time they're both. Like these people will seek out platforms to buy the items they want. I think the only thing with male buyers is they're less browse friendly. And an interesting thing for me on Vinted in the last week is I bought some new shoes, right? And I bought them from eBay in the end, but I went to try and look for them on Vinted through search, and I could not find what I wanted to. Like it was a pain in the ass to browse, not browse, search. Like I wanted. So I basically bought some Gore-Tex Nike trail running shoes because I like the waterproof ones because when I'm in the car boot, my feet don't get wet.
Yeah.
And then, so I went on the Vinted platform to I typed in the same thing I did on eBay and then tried to use the filters to narrow it down. And I was just getting so much shit. Like I got so much stuff that wasn't what I wanted that it was crazy. And I was scrolling through and I'm trying to find the ones that I did want. And firstly, it was higher priced than on eBay, which was interesting. Like the shoes I actually wanted brand new were higher priced on Vinted than they were on eBay. So ended up buying them from eBay, and they went through authentication and they got here pretty quick, and the guy sent them out pretty much straight away. But in terms of like an actual search platform, I don't know if it's just with shoes or like whatever, but if you're trying to find something specific, it is way more difficult. Way more difficult.
I think with Vinted, right, they because they allow the spotlight, they allow the bump, and people are quote unquote less professional on Vinted. I would say that some people mislabel stuff. Some people label stuff incorrectly on purpose to get into searches. They bump and they spotlight. So I think it becomes, if you're searching for something specific, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But again, like you said, the browser-friendly nature of Vinted is definitely predominantly pushed towards women, and that's the way that they would purchase items. And I've always said it, man, woman, child, whatever, eBay is always going to be the easy. If I want a specific item, eBay's where I'm going. If I'm just
even though I think they have fucked their search recently. I don't know. Oh mate, I am sick and tired of going on comps to try and look something up, and then I search it, and on solds it's fine half the time, right? Like on solds, you'll put in maybe a specific name, a specific keyword that gets your item to come up, and then you put it on active, and if there's not enough of it on active, they'll just bombard the active with stuff that's irrelevant. And it's so annoying. And every time I'm putting in quotation marks, I'm like, around the keyword I wanted to find in the first place, and then look, it's actually a decent sell-through rate. But it gives you a completely skewed idea of what stuff is now, and it's really, really annoying.
Quite annoying.
And I think they're trying to copy Vinted doing that. And I think they realistically do have, like, if you put in a keyword, they put the stuff that matches the keyword to the top-ish, like, of the search. But then everything else under that is just waffle. And I guess it only affects you if you're realistically trying to look up comps. Like, that is the main thing. Like, if you're trying to look up sell-through rate, otherwise it doesn't matter, because if you can see what you're looking for at the top, then it works anyway. And if it as a buyer, if it suggests other things that you might like, then I guess that's fine. But it's really annoying, and I don't like it.
It's harder if you're a reseller and you're trying to work out how much stuff is worth. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm just looking back and seeing if we've got any questions, because I feel like we've missed some engagement today for the most part.
I've got a final take on clearance as well.
I was gonna hit that as well.
I'm gonna hit you with a final take on clearance.
Okay.
Auctions on eBay, no. Vinted reduction price, no. I've worked it out. I genuinely believe if you want to shift the fastest amount of items for the best price, whatnot. Period. And I know you're going to be like, what the hell? But I did whatnot for a while, and one of my clearance strategies.
That is unbelievably wrong.
Yeah, I knew this was coming. So this is why I left it towards the end, because I wanted to have a little conversation about this and sit and get your thought process on it, right? But I'm going to quickly go through my thought process, and then I'm going to let you come at me, right?
Okay.
So, number one, buyer pays for postage, right? So it's essentially Vinted in that scenario, right?
Yeah.
The fees are a percentage is smaller on Whatnot.
I mean, they're free on Vinted, but yeah.
Okay, but the fee percentage based on the eBay is non-existent compared to Whatnot. And I could have sold all 100 of the items that I listed on auction. I could have sold all 100 in one show, 2 hours. Fast, gone. Right? I feel like people want free postage on Whatnot because after a certain amount of buys, you get free postage, right? Because the weight certain. So there would be more multi-quantity orders. People look to buy because of that. And if you take away the fees and the free postage, let's go solely to an eBay perspective against eBay. I wouldn't have to pay as much fees, and I wouldn't have to take away the contribution of free postage, right? You would get all of the items sold within 2 hours. And I genuinely think so. My average was what, £6.88. I reckon I could get close to, if not more, on some of those items at £6.88 average. So I genuinely think, from my experience of Whatnot, I would have done better on that 9,900 item auction on Whatnot than I did on eBay.
Well,
a spanner in the works, isn't it? I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, "There's
funny?
No way I wouldn't have done better on Whatnot." And also, I would have got it all done in one day, done, dusted, and out the door. No messing around. One day, gone. In fact, I have around 50 plus items still in my unsold from stuff that didn't sell. So there is a potential, because I'm already signed up for Whatnot. I can still do it. I might just chuck all 50 items on a Whatnot show, break down the average cost of goods, and see how it goes.
Okay.
Do
all
it.
Right. Firstly, you have to put your money where your mouth is. Factually, you're going to have to do it now or Whatnot. Yeah, and it's going to have to be 100 items again.
Okay, I'm going to have to find another 50, but yeah.
I mean, you should be able to, right? Like, I'm sure there's like another 15 or so that
you're just trying to say I've got crap items in my store.
I've got like another 300 I could get rid of, to be honest with you. That is super interesting, because I was having a discussion the other day that I think the opposite of that. I was thinking, actually, I was looking at the luxury pickers, and I was like, obviously they've got a massive following. And I was like, what do you think would happen if the luxury pickers built a brand around putting everything on eBay auction? Right? So if you have decent, like my Alexander McQueen dress, not a good sell-through rate, generally, not like an amazing sell-through rate, but sold for £30. The Bruno Cucinelli, it bumped up a little bit. And this is without anyone following me for auction. There's a guy in America called Lux something who just does luxury auctions all the time. And he has a massive following of people that come and buy from him on auction. And obviously the luxury pickers have built their brand to be a Whatnot brand at the moment. And they go out. And I don't think I'm not saying they 100% would or anything. But I'm saying it would be really interesting if they put that effort into everyone come to our eBay store, because we auction weekly luxury brands, luxury items. And even those more niche luxury items that might not be as good, people would come and look and watch and may possibly bid up your items. And obviously it flows outside of the people just watching you live, because you have a whole week and people can buy from all over the world. And the same on Whatnot, but the audience would be much, much smaller. And if you can convert the people who would be watching on Whatnot anyway, and I guess there's a massive thing in terms of personality in a show selling the item, but I still think it would be super, super interesting to transfer that over and see how it performs. And it's way, way more passive. And that's the only thing I was thinking about Whatnot when you were just saying that, is like 2 hours to go through and sell all your items. Yes, it's a guarantee, and I agree with that. And I think that's a really good idea. But I just whacked on an auction, then dossed off for the week. And then I come back and I had like 60% sold. So realistically, is it that much different? And I also think Whatnot require, like you're saying this, and obviously you've sold on Whatnot before, but I wonder how different a landscape is Whatnot is now, with how many people you actually get in your live, and how much the prices would actually go up. Like, because obviously you'd have a lot of, if you like marketed it on Instagram, you might have a few people show up. But I think in terms of the general Whatnot audience, I don't think that many people would just come and see you new off the bat if you were just deciding to clear one day, and you might have loads of items sell at £1, which might be way less than eBay.
Maybe there's an element that I might try this. I'll see.
But I think you have to now. I think you've said this. You've put this big statement out into the world, and you've gone, I think it's better. Whatnot's better than both of them. And we've even done nothing to do with our title. You just think it's better than both of them, and that's what you think is going to be the best.
From a clearance perspective, yes. From an actual money perspective and margins and stuff like that, obviously Whatnot isn't as good. But I do think from a clearance perspective, if you've completely detached from your items, it is the fastest and quickest way of getting rid of everything. And on top of that, for instance, obviously, like there will have been people, I don't know, but I know Andrew said he bid on a couple of yours, right? So there will be resellers that were bidding on your auctions, right? And then obviously I know at least 3 or 4 that purchased things from me, actually won them, right? So I could do the same thing on Whatnot. I could go, right, here's these Ralph Lauren leather trousers or whatever. These are getting auctioned off from £1 start, and 3 or 4 people might come in and want them. So they might be a personal, they might be a resale. And I used to promote to Instagram anyway, which is heavily Instagram. My Instagram is heavily like reseller anyway. And people used to come in and I would sell things for like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 quid, depending on what it is. Like coach bags for 80 quid. There is no resale value in it.
When was it?
Oh, this was probably like a year and a half ago now. So there will be.
What was like infested by resellers, but like
exactly. Yes, we could look at it and say maybe you wouldn't have the audience, or maybe there wouldn't be, but there's more people just watching Whatnot now than there was that were. So initially it was heavily resellers, and now it's probably a little bit more, maybe it's 60-40 resellers. So maybe there's an element that I would want.
We don't need to talk about it. We just need you to do it.
Maybe right. So everybody, I need you to start bidding on some items when I do this Whatnot show, okay?
I ain't bidding on nothing. I'm watching you crumble in front of my eyes, and I'm letting you die.
No, don't let me die. I'm feeling it. I reckon, and even if I fail, I win, right? Because all the items that I were going to get rid of anyway are gone, and the speed of exit is infinitely quicker than anything else. I do think as well that because I'm selling them on Whatnot. Go on.
So you say the speed of exit is significant. If you listed everything on Vinted for £1, do you think it would all go?
Yeah, of course it would. Yeah. So, but how much time does it take to put it on there versus how much you would just stand in front of the camera?
Way quicker. It's way quicker. I go bulk edit eBay, £1, and then cross list it all. I'm done in about 10-15 minutes, maybe less if you're not slow like me.
I don't know. I just think it's a really good sort of like speed of exit, and also on top of that, because you're the person selling it, you can be like, right, all of these items are getting packaged tonight, and they will be posted tomorrow morning. So you're the speed of, like on Vinted, people don't know if you buy something whether I'm going to wait 6 days before I post it, and then they have to wait another 2 or 3 days for postage to get to them, right? So one of the selling points of the Whatnot show can be just like everything you buy tonight will be shipped tomorrow morning, and it will take you 2 days to get it, or whatever. Like so you can market the speed of exit.
It's also worse for you.
Well, it's not, because it's. If
you sell 100 things and then you promise that you're going to sell them, you're going to package them all tonight and send them out tomorrow. That's
it wouldn't be 100 packages because there would be more.
Which is fine.
So, like, I think I just think it's a really interesting one. I need to work out how I can do it and if I can still do it, because I was signed up for Whatnot selling. I don't know whether I still am because I'm.
Tasha's saying she doesn't have time. And then she's plugging that you have a referral code to get
them. I have a £10 referral code if anyone's interested.
I was like, Andrew's here. Andrew, use his referral code once instead of plugging yours. Okay, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I really don't. I don't like, in terms of like clearance, actual clearance, and maybe the price you'll get for stuff. Maybe that's the move. Maybe once a month you jump on and go, hey, I've got, these are the leftover stock from my eBay store. And if we've got this as a little platform, it might do something. I don't know. But I think it would be super interesting if you put a date in each month where you just go live and sell all your old stuff and see how that goes. But you do it first.
On And also, like you said, right, realistically, I could just go in and I said it before, like I could just go in, find all the items that I want to clearance and 50% them off on Vinted, and anybody who's favorited it in the past might come in and say, I'll give you another 20% off, and that's what my like offer would be, and maybe I just clear it out that way. And you can do it at a more manageable pace, and you haven't got 100 orders to do the next day. I'm just talking about sheer like detachment, no interest in the items, clear, gone, all done. 2 hours, 2 hour live with 2 hours worth of packing, 4 hours, you're out the door, everything's gone, and you're completely gone. And I just want to say, Kaylee, right?
Kaylee is waffling.
She's waffling because, right, 100% you have items that are crap in your store. Because guess what? If you didn't, they'd all be sold, right? We would all love to have a 50 item store that you listed 50 items into and it sold instantly, and then you did it again the next day and the next day. But that's not the way it works. Unfortunately, sometimes you have crap in your store, and that will always happen because seasons change, styles change, and if stuff doesn't sell quickly, stuff will just be left at the end, and that's just the way it is. So stop trying to pretend like you've never picked up a bad item. Also, everybody has.
No one's trying to pick up bad items.
No, we all want the good stuff.
I feel like we're talking about stuff that's a year, like 6 months to 9 months old, a year old, 2 years for some of my stuff. You think I hope I'm picking up better items now.
And you know you're right, because when you're selling, like I do this all the time, and we had a conversation about this, which is like when you sell an item that's like in your first 1,000 on your SKU, you're excited, right? And I'm like, oh god, that reminds me of a time when I wasn't as good as what I'm doing, right? But when I sell items within the last 200 of my SKU, I'm the happiest man alive, and it is genuinely due to the fact that I know that the items that I'm picking up currently are selling within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And in my opinion, it's more important to be selling those items than it is anything from the past, because you know that you're doing better now than you were in the past.
See, I'll walk into that. I'm like, standard.
This is just what I do.
This is what should be happening. You know,
no, absolutely, it should be happening. Mate, exactly. I walked into the unit and had to pick like 40 packages the other day, and me and Tash were like, "Oh god, this is long, isn't it?" But I was like, also like, this is what I want. This is what I want my daily to be. So like, this is what should be happening. And I think that's just, I get what you're saying. It should be happening, but it is nice to get a little reaffirm every now and then when you're selling items within 2 or 3 days and you're just going, actually, do you know what? I am pretty good at what I'm doing. Stuff's selling. It's getting going.
That's fact. That's fact. Do you want to do a speed run of the comments before we head on?
Yeah, let's do a little. Also, anybody in the comments, if you have any topics of things specifically that you're interested in, just give us a shout, and we're doing like a little topic board or whatever, and we can. So if there's anything that you specifically want our opinions or to talk about, that would be interesting as well. It might not necessarily be next week, but it's just cool to have some interesting topics based on just what people are the people that are watching, what they're interested in as well.
Okay, I'm looking all the way back.
Yep, let's go.
Morning. That's not very helpful, although I appreciate it. Okay, first we got Kaylee saying, would you pick these items up again on the auctions and stuff like that?
Well, I would probably say out of the 99 that I picked up, there's probably a 2 or 3% tile of items that were actually good items. And if I wasn't being lazy and in clearance mode, I would just repicture. Some of them, the pictures were awful because we were using an older phone and they were like whited out, like really heavily, like badly photographed.
Yeah.
So there was items there that I could have rejigged, but I just didn't want to do. So I would say probably out of the 99, maybe 4 or 5 were actually very good items that if I'd have put a little bit more effort into, it definitely would have sold at an infinitely better price. But in the grand scheme of things, no, you'd be silly to pick up most of the items if you're having to clear them out at $5.99. Now, what I would say, just because I know what's coming out of your mouth, some of the things are very good items. However, the sizes are bad as well. So there is that element to it as well. So you could pick up the same item, but in a size 18 versus a size 6, it would infinitely sell better. So there is that one as well. So a lot of things to play in that.
I would say yes. For some of it, it's always some's going to be yes. So the 3 things actually that make a difference on most items I picked up would be the price I picked them up at, me not overpricing them in the first place, like the price I'd sell them for would be completely different. And the third would be sizing, like you said. Like some of it was sizing. I wouldn't pick them quite up in the way I picked them up, but a lot of it probably could sell normally if I just priced it better and picked it up. That would also, if I priced it better, that would therefore mean I had to pick it up at a better price point, and that would be how it worked. Like all the toe stuff, if I probably would have sold it all cheaper, if I would have sold it for £20 a piece, it probably would have all sold ages ago. But I picked it up for fucking 23. So there you go. What have we got? So people, in terms of clear out strategies, people saying they never clear out. I was the same with Chris. Like, I think clearing out is super important because yes, you can say stuff sells eventually if you keep reducing it, probably, but space, money invested in better places. I think those things to me are more important than holding on for dear life until I can get some money out of it. Whereas I'd rather just get the space is a big one for me. Space is probably the biggest factor in terms of why I'd rush to sell it. But also I keep thinking about this. I keep going between, oh, hey, I can still make some profit on this versus I'm making no money right now with it sitting there. Like it's making me no money. So like I'd rather get my money in something that's going to make me money than no money. But then also the other point of that is this is a whole different topic. We should go into like the secondary topic for this was like profit and flips and minimum margins and stuff like that. But that can be for another time now because we don't got time for it. But that you don't necessarily need the money back. Like if you have enough money to buy more stuff, like and the space for it, like realistically, you don't need the money back. But so that's kind of an interesting.
One thing for the clearance side of it as well is that you can tell whether you've got a good item or not, or like even if it's in clearance mode or close to clearance mode, based on views. So you could look at your past, like you could look at your oldest items, and if one's got loads of views and nobody's picked it up, there's a reason why nobody's picked it up, and it's usually either pictures, title structure, but if you get loads of views, then it probably means that the title structure is not horrendous, and then it falls to the third one, which is probably the price. So you can probably work out what's good to reduce and what's good to just bin off based on how many views and watches each item has. If you've got an item with you've had it listed for 4 months and it's got 4 views and nobody's watching it, then you've just got a bad item or the title's awful. But you can normally work out what's wrong with your item. If you still think that item's really good, then 9 times out of 10, it's not searchable, right? Because only 4 people have found it. So you can roughly work out what the issue with each item is based on how many views and stuff it's got.
I've come across multiple listings where I've made mistakes, like, and there's a massive reason why like no one's been able to find it is because I've completely mistitled it, item specific it, all sorts of stuff. Andy said he was from an accounts background, so the computer work is a lot better than my manual labor work. So I'm not the best at processing listing. So he's not good at processing and listing stock, but he is good at the background computer work, which is interesting.
I wish I was like that.
And once the coupons are set up, it's just looking at your listing each day. So you're only looking at a smaller amount each day, 5 minutes work in the wake up process. Fair. I don't even have a wake up process.
Same. Age
demographic, if you're a lot younger. See, this was actually quite interesting that Xander said here. He said, this made like, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a standard question. But then the interesting thing he followed up with is there an age demographic on Vinted? If they're a lot younger, you'd expect the smaller sizes to fly and be easier to sell, which is very interesting and a very good point. I've never thought of before.
Something I agree with.
I've never thought of that before, and that's really interesting.
But what I will say is I do think Vinted is... So I think smaller sizes sell better on Vinted, but that doesn't negate the fact that bigger sizes also sell. So there is I think it's heavily younger generation because I think a lot of people came over from Depop. But I do believe that even my mum uses Vinted. She won't buy stuff off eBay. So there is an element that older people are still using Vinted. So I think you would get...
Definitely are. And like I said, but online shoppers are everywhere. They will find a way to an online.
I think you're more likely to sell your size 6s and 8s on Vinted than you are on eBay, like from a general, like sort of overall, like perspective.
I agree. My mum having a go at me to sell the sweaty Betty on Vinted again. We will see. We will
tell him.
I don't know how people manage. So Joe Norris here with a really good point of the bigger your store, the harder it is to manage on multiple platforms, and keeping track of, like I said, keeping track of cross listing and keeping track of things delisting, and all this sort of thing. And he followed up again and said 5,000 items, spent so much time marking stuff as sold, need a solid software, and that's fair. Like that is a negative to cross listing. Like you can trust ZipSell to delist it for you, but sometimes it doesn't work and you're stuck. I think you just need to try and keep track as much as you can, but it's very hard.
I understand that perspective if you're selling more than 50 a day, but I do believe if you're selling less than 50 a day, if the percentage is even 50%, you're only selling 25 on Vinted, which means that it would not take that long. If an item sells on Vinted, you just jump onto eBay, search it, delist it.
Yeah, but that's a whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm not saying it's not difficult. Like it's not extra work. I'm just saying that in the grand scheme of things, that 12 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it takes you to do that once, 25 times, that's about 5 minutes of your day. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's not the most horrendous thing to do. Now, what I would say is that ZipSale does delist, but doesn't also delist. And the same with Sellerator. I do think that eventually in the next like 6 months or so, it'll probably be figured out where it works 100% of the time. But the problem is that people do not like, even the most avid like ZipSell fan or Sellerator fan, in 6 months time, even if it's 100% every time, they're still going to double check. So in that mind, why would you bother paying for the extra? Just do it yourself.
I don't double check. Anyway, it's back to speed running. All good for me. Jay said no returns on Vinted either, which is a massive plus. Vinted is a no-brainer from John. Vinted provides more profit again. Like, yeah, facts. Jess, the eBay auctions outperform the Vinted sales, maybe not in terms of average ASP, but in terms of numbers. Matching, people are saying Vinted is matching eBay. Or you can skirt under the VAT threshold on Vinted for longer because you don't have to include postage, which is a big point.
Or you offer free postage on eBay. That's the counter to that, I guess.
Yeah, does it make a difference? And you also have a lower VAT bill with a higher profit threshold if you are paying VAT anyway.
Yeah.
eBay item specifics help the search for Vinted. eBay has all the item specifics. Vinted doesn't have it, so it's relying a lot more on people's title structure, which is usually. But see, I don't agree with this at all. I don't think Vinted does have some specifics, and obviously it doesn't have as many, but it doesn't rely on title structure at all. I think it relies on a few item specifics, and then.
Yeah, I think what he's saying there is that Vinted would rely on title structure more than eBay because they've got the items on eBay. But the issue is that the people don't structure their titles correctly, so that's why you struggle to find the things that you need. So I think he's agreeing, but also saying that if you were to find one of my items, my title structure, I believe, would be okay. So if you were on Vinted and you searched it, you would find it. But I do believe that what he's trying to say is that it would rely more on Vinted. However, nobody does it. So when you're trying to search for something, it makes it a little bit more difficult. That's kind of what's about.
I agree, but I think Vinted relies on anything half the time. And I think for the most part, that's it.
I also just want to show this one here. Kenzo jacket that you and other people have criticized, sold within 2 days on eBay as well.
I'm going to go look it up because I can't even remember what it looked like.
It was just cropped blazer with like loads of floral bits on it. Sold for 35 10% off or whatever it was. So it ended up being like £31 with a £5 cost of goods. Not crazy, but it sold really quickly.
Is it men's or women's?
Women's. And it sold on eBay. I thought that was a Vinted item all day long, but
it's so I get this so often with random stuff that I pick up that I'm like, I don't know. Oh yeah, here you go, $34.99.
Yeah,
like
that wasn't
okay.
So
I mean, you price it to like this is what I think with stuff that has a really bad sell-through rate. This is what we're back to 100% sell-through. Is you price it low enough, then it's going to work.
And I could do that because of the £5 cost of goods, right? Like if you're paying £15 for that, you're not going to be pricing at 35. You'd have been pricing at 45, 50, and therefore it would have been a lot slower in the sell-through.
Like we're looking at sell-through rate here. 229 to actually that's 171 to 27 on Kenzo jackets. So
I glitched the system with that one.
Nice, lovely. Thank you very much, Compule. That concludes the first part of our clearance experiment. Chris is going to hopefully follow up with part 2.
Hopefully, I'll see if I can get it
With the
done.
third party now, he's thrown the gauntlet out there that is the best option. We'll see. I'm interested to see that more than anything. Like, I don't care about what everyone else wants to see. I'm very interested to see if it does perform better.
Yeah, I just need to double check and make sure that my Vinted, my Whatnot account is still active for me to be able to do it. But yeah, if it is, I will do it.
Sounds like excuses. All right,
Make sure you hit the like button, hit the like, subscribe.
Outro.